They built this into one of the great studios in Hollywood ever. And the verse is this, it says, "Today was Angie's birthday, and it must have slipped your mind. I tried twice to call you, with no answer either time. But the postman brought a package I mailed some days ago. I signed it, love from Mama, so Angie wouldn't know."
You got a very broad career. 14 albums, platinum albums, #1 albums. When you look back on your career at this point...
Dwight Yoakam is a country music legend, known for his unmistakable twang, rebellious spirit, and chart-topping hits. But behind the fame, fortune, and Hollywood success lies a story filled with struggles, heartbreak, and unexpected twists. From battling against the Nashville establishment to financial turmoil, failed relationships, and a near-ruinous film project, Dwight's journey has been anything but smooth. Why did he vanish from the spotlight at the peak of his career? What devastating events shaped his life behind the scenes? And how did he fight his way back? In this deep dive, we uncover the unseen details of Dwight Yoakam's rise, fall, and redemption, featuring rare footage and untold stories that paint a much darker picture than fans ever imagined. Stay with us as we unravel the tragic truth behind one of country music's most enigmatic figures. Dwight Yoakam, fame and struggles. Country music artists usually follow a familiar path. They start by playing in small venues for several years, then move to Nashville, where they work as studio musicians for a long time before achieving success. Dwight Yoakam, though, did things differently, and the music business never quite accepted his approach. Dwight's early life showed him that Nashville was dishonest. People thought he had come from Ohio to get a recording contract, but that was untrue. He chose to go to Los Angeles instead, a place where punk and country music were more accepted together than by music executives.
I really broke in the LA scene. There's a great legacy in California. Across America, there's this same legacy. I think that every generation, every decade or so, especially though in Southern California, there was a reawakening of an awareness about country music in some form.
Instead of making popular love songs, Dwight put out album after album of real, rough honky-tonk tunes. First, there was Guitars, Cadillacs, and Other Models. And finally, Buenas Noches from a Lonely Room cemented his style. Throughout this time, Dwight always criticized Nashville from afar. When Columbia Records released a Johnny Cash record, he spoke out against them. He also criticized MTV for saying they wouldn't play country music videos. After he signed with Warner Music Nashville, they told him to stop using the word hillbilly. They felt it was insulting to the music business. Dwight kept using it as long as he could. For a while, it looked like he was succeeding. But then, things started to go downhill. His records weren't selling as well, and the music industry was paying him less attention. By 1995, it seemed like he had lost his fight against the Nashville system. Instead of leaving a lasting mark, Dwight seemed to disappear. The music he released later didn't get much notice. Because of this, Dwight chose to use his skills differently. Dwight's defiance of Nashville's rigid music scene was rooted in his early struggles, where his unconventional approach and honky-tonk sound set him apart long before he gained mainstream recognition.
Who are you? Who is Dwight Yoakam, the person?
I started to answer you very quickly, and it wasn't, not to be flippant, I was just going to say, I don't know. And then I thought, no. It's that kid that I used to say we were taillight babies. It would, on Friday night, often during the years, multiple times during the year, when we'd move to Columbus, Ohio, be on Route 23 headed south.
Roots and Road to Stardom. Dwight David Yoakam was born on October 23, 1956 in Pikeville, Kentucky. He's the oldest of 3 kids born to David and Ruth Ann Yoakam. His dad was in the U.S. Army when Dwight was born. After David Yoakam left the U.S. Coast Guard, the family moved to Columbus, Ohio. They then had 2 more children, Kimberly and Ronald. David worked at a Westinghouse factory and later owned a Texaco gas station to support his family. While in the military, Dwight's dad got a guitar from the K Musical Instrument Company. Since he couldn't learn to play, he gave it to Dwight. Dwight broke that first guitar, but he got a new one for Christmas when he was 8 and in 4th grade. He also wrote his first song around that time. Dwight was influenced by the music his parents listened to and the local country radio station, WMNI. He heard songs by Johnny Cash and Johnny Horton. His mom said that when they drove to visit her parents, they would all sing together. Dwight also said he was influenced by rock and roll artists like Elvis Presley, who he saw on TV. In 1968, the family moved to a different part of Columbus, where Dwight went to high school. His mom encouraged all her kids to join the school band, and Dwight played drums. He was also in a drama class and played Charlie in a production of Flowers for Algernon. Dwight later said that this play helped him feel more comfortable performing in front of people. In his last year of high school, Dwight and some friends started a rock and roll band to enter the school talent show. The band became popular and began playing private parties around Columbus as the Greaser Band. Dwight went to Ohio State University but dropped out to focus on music. While playing at a club in Gahanna, Ohio, a man approached him, promising a record deal. But the man was a fraud.
I never experienced that, even in Ohio when I played bars. In about 1981, 82, the scene in the rock clubs broke out and allowed me an access point to take the kind of neo honky tonk that I was, because I never did the urban cowboy stuff. I got fired a lot because they would hire us expecting in 79, 80, 81, the music that was on commercial country radio.
For a while, Dwight decided to move to Nashville, Tennessee to keep working on his country music career. However, his style was more honky-tonk and bluegrass, which wasn't as popular then as country pop and the Nashville sound. Because of this, he struggled in Nashville. After that, Dwight moved to Los Angeles, California with the help of Billy Alves, who used to be in the Greaser Band with him. In 1982, he met Pete Anderson, a guitarist and record producer, at a bar in Los Angeles. He didn't have much luck at first, but he became friends with Anderson. They realized they both liked artists like Merle Haggard, and they became good friends. Anderson also pointed out that bands like Joe Ely, Rank and File, and Lone Justice were making cowpunk and alternative country popular in California. By playing at the same places as these bands, Dwight was able to reach more people. Dwight's Hollywood gamble. The big question is, where did Dwight Yoakam disappear? At one point, all of his focus shifted toward acting. It's common to see musicians wanting to be actors and actors wanting to be musicians, but only a handful truly succeed in making that transition. Many try, but very few manage to build lasting careers in both worlds. So, did Dwight Yoakam have what it takes to make it in Hollywood? At first, he started with a small role in a crime drama, but as time went on, his acting career gained momentum. One of his first major roles came in 1996, when he played Doyle Hargraves in Sling, a film directed by Billy Bob Thornton. His character was a violent and unpredictable man, far from the charming, smooth country singer that fans were used to. His famous line from the movie, "All right, I told you to leave my place immediately." After Sling Blade, Dwight landed roles in other films, including The Newton Boys, directed by Richard Linklater, and The Minus Man, where he acted alongside Sheryl Crow. Surprisingly, Dwight became highly respected for playing villains. He built a reputation as an actor who could bring intensity and charisma to darker, more complex roles, a complete contrast to the friendly, fun-loving image fans had of his music career. His performance in Sling Blade was so well received that the film's ensemble cast won a Screen Actors Guild Award. This was a huge moment for Dwight, but instead of just continuing as an actor, he wanted more. Being a recognizable name in Hollywood wasn't enough. He wanted to create something of his own. So, he devised a bold plan. He would write, direct, star in, and compose the music for his very own Western film. It was a massive undertaking. But what could possibly go wrong? As it turns out, a lot. Just before production was set to begin, the film's financial backer pulled out. This left Dwight with two options: cancel the project or fund it himself. Determined not to let his dream die, he took a huge financial risk and decided to pay for the film out of his own pocket. This choice came at a steep price. He had to sell his home in Malibu to help fund the movie. But even that wasn't enough to keep things afloat. As costs continued to pile up, he realized he had far less money than he thought. His production company quickly collapsed into bankruptcy, and before long, half of the film's cast had filed lawsuits against him. The financial fallout didn't stop there. Because of the enormous debt he had taken on, Dwight was forced to let go of most of his longtime supporting band members, musicians who had stood by him for his entire career. After all that risk, at the very least, the movie must have been a hit, right? Not even close. The film was a critical and commercial disaster. It lost money, received terrible reviews, and further pushed Dwight into financial trouble. Although he was still known for his strong acting skills, he spent the next several years paying off the debt he had accumulated from this disastrous project. So, what was Dwight Yoakam doing during this time? Aside from struggling to recover financially, he was also searching for love, which led to its own set of challenges. A star on and off the stage. Throughout his career, Dwight Yoakam has acted in several movies and TV shows. One of his first acting jobs was a recurring part in the CBS crime drama P.S. I Love You in 1991.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest tonight is a talented musician and actor. He's been nominated for 2 Grammys this year, and he's also starring in the Oscar-nominated film Sling. This guy does it all. Please welcome Dwight Yoakam.
In 1993, Dwight Yoakam had a role in the film Red Rock West. A few years later, he was cast as Doyle Hargraves in the 1996 film Sling, which was directed by Billy Bob Thornton. According to Yoakam, Sling was the first role in his acting career that he believed would leave a lasting impact. He shared this thought in 2016 on the website Country Daily. Interestingly, it was his own management team that suggested he take on the role. In 1997, Sling won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a cast in a motion picture, and Yoakam was among the nominees as part of the ensemble cast. The following year, in 1998, he appeared in The Newton Boys, a film directed by Richard Linklater. During the filming of these movies, which took place across Austin, Texas, Yoakam was also writing songs for his album A Long Way Home. In 1999, he starred in the thriller The Minus Man alongside Sheryl Crow. In 2000, he co-wrote, directed, and acted in the Western film South of Heaven, West of Hell. Alongside the movie, he also composed and released a soundtrack album under the same title. However, the film was a financial disaster, and several crew members ended up filing small claims lawsuits against Yoakam due to unpaid wages. As a result of the financial losses from the film, Yoakam made the difficult decision to end his professional relationship with longtime producer and guitarist Pete Anderson in 2002. Despite his dedication to the project, the soundtrack for South of Heaven and West of Hell was met with mixed reviews. Zach Johnson of AllMusic acknowledged that the album featured high-profile contributors like Becca Bramlett, Mick Jagger, and Billy Gibbons, but he criticized it for including dialogue clips from the film between songs. That same year, Yoakam appeared in the David Fincher-directed thriller Panic Room, which was released in 2002. Leading up to the film's release, Yoakam told the Associated Press that he did not see acting as much different from recording music, since both involve fragmented performances that require repetition. In 2005 and 2006, Yoakam continued his acting career with appearances in films such as Banditas, The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada, and Wedding Crashers. Later, in 2014, he had a recurring role in the second season of the CBS sci-fi series Under the Dome. A few years later, Yoakam reunited with Billy Bob Thornton when he joined the first season of Goliath, an original series produced by Amazon Prime Video. Yoakam's music style and influences. Dwight Yoakam's musical style shows many different influences, from both inside and outside of country music. You can hear elements of country rock, rockabilly, honky tonk, neo-traditional country, and the Bakersfield sound in his music.
The Bakersfield sound was actually recorded in Hollywood, most of it. And then people, even Merle's great anthem, Okie from Muskogee, ironically, and he said to me, he really wrote it tongue-in-cheek. He wasn't serious.
Colin Larkin, in the Virgin Encyclopedia of Country Music, stated that Yoakam's music was influenced by honky-tonk legends Buck Owens and Lefty Frizzell, while also showing a strong dislike for the polished Nashville pop country sound. Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic highlighted Yoakam's impact on country music, stating, "With his stripped-down approach to traditional honky-tonk and Bakersfield country, Dwight Yoakam helped return country music to its roots in the late 80s. Erlewine also noted that Yoakam played a significant role in reviving country music, particularly among rock and roots rock fans. Pete Anderson's guitar work in Yoakam's music was compared to Don Rich, a key member of Buck Owens' backing band, the Buckaroos, by Tom Jurek of AllMusic. Jurek also pointed out that Anderson's guitar style was a crucial part of Yoakam's sound, and that Yoakam's rock influences were evident in his use of electric guitar and Hammond organ. Yoakam himself described his songwriting style as fragmented. In an interview, he explained that his process starts with a melody before choosing the song's atmosphere. Only then does he shape the lyrics around a central idea. He also shared that he avoids writing linearly, believing that finishing a song in a single session would leave him feeling artistically drained. His early exposure to bluegrass music played a significant role in shaping his songwriting. Speaking to American Songwriter, he expressed appreciation for the irony that's always been a part of bluegrass, in that it sets melodic, lilting melodies and upbeat tempos with the most tragic lyrics. Cindy Hawley of Gavin Report acknowledged Yoakam's widespread appeal beyond traditional country fans. In 1993, she noted that his records sold across the board to middle-aged Stonewall Jackson fans and to young punk rockers who'd seen Dwight do his thing in LA, opening shows for Los Lobos and the Violent Femmes. Richard Crommelin of the Los Angeles Times described Yoakam's musical persona as a brooding, intensely private figure driven by restless ambition and an edgy intellectuality more commonly found in rock stars. Yoakam himself reflected on his connection to music, stating, "I found out early that one of the ways I was able to make contact was through musical expression." In a 1993 interview with Gavin Report, Yoakam spoke about his deep analytical nature and its contrast with songwriting, saying, "To be absolutely dissection analytical is my nature. The songwriting, on the other hand, requires me to leave it in a location that is not." At the start of his career, Yoakam was criticized for openly challenging the music industry. He was vocal about MTV's refusal to air country music videos and Columbia Records dropping Johnny Cash. Later, reflecting on his earlier criticisms, Yoakam admitted, "I learned a couple of albums in that my opinions and observations on the industry were not pertinent to what I needed to do as an artist. So I just really began to focus solely on what I was doing at the time." His signature look also became a defining part of his image. Colin Larkin wrote in the Virgin Encyclopedia of Country Music that, like Don Williams and others, he retains the traditional Stetson hat. On the other hand, Alana Nash, in her review of If There Was a Way, described the initial skepticism surrounding Yoakam's image and sound, stating, "When Dwight Yoakam first appeared on the scene with his trendy retro attitude, conscious studded trousers, and music that frequently brushed the edge of rock and roll, it was difficult to determine whether or not the California cowboy was for real." However, his third album, Buenas Noches from a Lonely Room, proved his authenticity. Nash explained that the album's primary cycle of songs is a traditional murder story that recalls the pride, heartache, betrayal, and vengeance that are characteristic of the history of the hillbilly subculture. His unique fan base was highlighted by Daryl Smyers of the Dallas Observer, who wrote, Yoakam was championed by a surprising mix of punks, rockabilly hounds, and hardcore honky-toners. Yoakam's fashion sense also stood out, with his oversized cowboy hat and ripped jeans often compared to the Flying Burrito Brothers outfits. His distinct vocal style was praised by Leonard Running of the Rapid City Journal, who described it as a plaintive, yodel-edged voice. A review in No Depression further noted, "His voice is pure and sweet, but a precise tool. It is only on extremely rare occasions, such as in the show Try Not to Look So Pretty, that it truly makes an emotional impact." J.D. Considine of the Baltimore Sun added to this, describing Yoakam's singing as a high, lonesome twang and a sweetly nasal tenor. Editors of the Encyclopedia of Country Music also acknowledged his vocal uniqueness, stating, "Yoakam possesses a twangy tenor simply too spellbinding for country radio to ignore." Unlike other country artists of his time, such as Lyle Lovett and Steve Earle, Yoakam found greater success in mainstream country music. The Encyclopedia of Country Music explained, "Mainstream country has found it easier to digest distorted guitars than ironic lyrics." Love and Heartbreak. It's easy to associate our favorite musicians solely with the music they create. However, many forget that behind the songs and performances, they have personal lives filled with their own challenges. For Dwight Yoakam, success in both Nashville and Hollywood wasn't without struggles. While the music industry rejected his rebellious approach, Hollywood saw him as too country for mainstream acting roles. At the same time, Nashville found him too rock and roll for traditional country music. Caught between two worlds, Dwight was also facing personal struggles, particularly in his romantic life. Did this cultural divide impact his relationships? Let's take a closer look. Actress Sharon Stone, famous for her roles in Total Recall and Basic Instinct, was an unexpected part of Dwight's life. In 1992, fans were stunned when she attended the Academy Awards with Dwight, a man neither from Hollywood's elite nor the fashion industry. Of course, he showed up in his signature cowboy hat, standing out from the usual tuxedo-clad stars. At the time, Dwight had just won a Grammy, but his fame was nowhere near Sharon's level. How did this high-profile romance turn out? Not well, to say the least. Shortly after their brief relationship, Sharon made headlines with a brutal comment. She told people that kissing Dwight was like a dirt sandwich, a remark that quickly spread and became a topic of gossip. The romance ended as quickly as it started, and Dwight learned an important lesson. Dating Hollywood's biggest stars came with its risks. His next relationship was with Karen Duffy, best known for her role in Dumb and Dumber. This one lasted longer, spanning about 2 years, but in the end, it didn't work out either. After 2 failed relationships in the spotlight, Dwight turned back to a world he was more familiar with, country music. His next romantic connection was with Wynonna Judd, a fellow country star. According to rumors, Wynonna was drawn to him immediately, allegedly telling someone, "Find me that man in the cowboy hat, and he's mine." At the time, Dwight's band was opening for Wynonna's tour, making it easy for them to spend time together. However, despite their shared passion for country music, their relationship never had the time to develop into something serious. Both artists were constantly on the road, and the demands of touring made it nearly impossible for them to settle down. After what felt like a never-ending search for love, Dwight finally got his lucky break. And when that moment came, he was more than ready for it. A journey of resilience and new beginnings. Many in Dwight Yoakam's position might have walked away from music entirely. His success in Hollywood had already secured him a career beyond the music industry, and he didn't necessarily need to return to it. However, that was never the way Dwight operated. In 2012, after several years of commercial disappointment, Dwight staged a strong comeback with his album 3 Pairs. Since then, he has continued to release high-quality records, proving that his passion for music never faded. Times have changed, and the music industry no longer demands every artist to chase pop success. More than ever, there is room for true musicians like Dwight, who may not appeal to the masses, but have a loyal and dedicated fan base. But that's not the only surprise he had in store for fans. Recently, people were shocked to learn that Dwight had finally settled down. Did he marry a model or an actress? Surprisingly, no. His wife, Emily Joyce, is a photographer, a name mostly unknown in celebrity circles. After years of dating famous women, it seems Dwight had learned an important lesson. Not much is known about Emily, and it's likely that the couple prefers to keep it that way. The two had been in a relationship since 2010, but managed to keep it hidden for nearly a decade. Then, in 2020, they decided it was time to make it official. However, there was one problem. The world was in lockdown. Due to restrictions, they were only allowed 10 guests at their wedding. Yet, it's unclear if that really mattered to Dwight. For someone who values privacy, a small ceremony may have been exactly what he wanted. Just a few months later, the couple shared another major announcement. They were expecting their first child, a son named Dalton. At 63 years old, Dwight was about to become a father for the first time, but his age wasn't going to slow him down. Now, for some unexpected news. Dwight Yoakam is not in the Country Music Hall of Fame. How is that possible? It seems that Nashville still hasn't forgiven him for refusing to conform to their standards. But Dwight isn't the type to hold grudges. With his acting career, his growing family, and his continued music, he has plenty to keep him busy. And if that wasn't enough, he's also an entrepreneur. Bakersfield Biscuits is his nationwide frozen food brand, proving that his talents extend far beyond entertainment. Legal battles and industry setbacks. In 2004, Pete Anderson, a longtime producer and guitarist, filed a lawsuit against Dwight Yoakam, claiming that Yoakam broke an oral contract by not performing several scheduled concerts in mid-2002. The lawsuit alleged that Yoakam's absence from these shows caused Anderson to lose over $44,000 in earnings. The legal dispute was eventually settled out of court. Yoakam, however, stated that his financial struggles at the time were largely due to losses from his failed film project, South of Heaven, West of Hell. Anderson later claimed that this financial strain led Yoakam to cut ties with him, effectively ending their long-term collaboration. In a 2011 interview with Style Weekly, Anderson expressed respect for Yoakam's artistic talent, but made it clear that he had no intention of working with him again. Years later, in 2021, Warner Music removed several of Yoakam's songs from streaming platforms after his contract expired. In response, Yoakam took legal action against the record label, arguing that they were blocking him from reclaiming ownership of his music. The dispute was resolved in February 2022, and shortly after, his songs were restored on streaming services. And that wraps up our deep dive into the tragic details of Dwight Yoakam's life. What do you think was the biggest turning point in his career? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And if you love stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Before you go, check out one of these 2 videos on your screen for more fascinating country music stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.